which is this metal rod here. And when that crankshaft will rotate, it will rotate the flywheel in orange, this big wheel. And this is this part here. And beneath the crankshaft, there is a connecting rod in dark green, which is this thin little tube here. Followed by, and that connecting rod connects to the displacer piston in black here. This is the power piston and this is the displacer.
And also the power piston?
The power piston, this white little thing here. See? And above the displacer piston is the cold plate in light green, and beneath it there's the hot plate in red.
Or at least it's going to be a hot plate after we put it on that cup of hot water.
Yeah. And surrounding these, the hot plate, the cold plate and the displacer, there's a sealed chamber in pink. And the way it works, and so if the air in this sealed chamber were to expand, it would push the power piston up. And if the air in that chamber were to contract, it would pull the power piston down. And the way it does that is by moving the air to the cold plate and to the hot plate. And so when the displacer piston moves down, it pushes the air to the cold plate where it contracts, pulling the power piston down. And when the displacer piston moves up, it pushes the air to the hot plate where it expands, pushing the power piston up, making the crankshaft rotate, and in turn the flywheel, and the cycle repeats. There's just one thing to notice, is that the displacer piston and the power piston have a specific way to move, and they are not in phase, which means they move like this. They are not 180 degrees out of phase, which means they move like this. But what they are 90 degrees out of phase, which means they move like this. Just a way to remember them is just as if they're chasing each other, the power pistons. Okay, so now let's see it work. Yeah. And do not get too close to it because it requires very, very hot tea.
No, don't move yet. Sit down, please. Just sit down. No. Stay where you are when you've got so you might need to move over next to the big
And just for a little review, that black thing there is the displacer. The flywheel is the golden wheel. The power piston is the white. And the white cylinder here is actually the power piston, and these thin rods are the connecting rods. And this big bar across here is the crankshaft. This is the cold plate and this is the hot plate. I'm not going to touch it because I might get burnt, maybe. And this glass part around here is the sealed chamber.
So I have to ask a question. I can't contain myself any further. What would you use a Stirling engine for? What sort of machine?
They have found some uses for it. For example, they've actually made a car powered by the Stirling engine. And
it was twice as efficient as the petrol engine.
Yes. So they've designed many things with it.
But the important thing is this is working off the temperature of a cup of hot water. And there was no other engine that I know of that can work off such tiny temperature differences. So it's very, very good as a waste heat engine. But there's been many attempts to use it. There's been very, very few uses for it.
How many will it go?
Yeah, right, it's going now.
It just goes until the tea just cools down.
Isn't that amazing?
Did you build it?
No, we just
It's
bought
one of the things I've been going to build
It's
from
gonna
the
be
time I was about your age. I've always wanted to make one, but you can buy everything on eBay so cheaply now. Oh, it's going well now, Lucas. It's really going. Is it the displacement disc again?
Yes, you can see the little finger.
And if you watch the phase, see if you can tell me which one is in front, which one leads. Is it the power piston or the displacement piston? Which one is chasing which? Is the displacer chasing the power piston or is the power piston chasing the displacer?
the power unit is getting chased.
The black thing is in
The displacer chasing the power unit.
They're chasing each other.
Yeah, they're 90 degrees out of phase,
That's
right?
It's actually one's up, the other one's mid.
comes up and then one
Put a baby to sleep.
It's actually the that one's up, the other one's mid.
How much do you think? You just make them on my touch and then I get them. How much do you think?
What do you reckon last cabinet at that? 15 card.
Okay, we'll just let that run.
Okay, so now my dad will be talking about the Whimshurst Machine,
So can we all sit
which
down
is
again?
a curator of static electricity.
This is another one that I've been wanting to make ever since the time I was a young boy. But can you make it any darker here by any chance?
No, this is the first.
What?
It's dark
Except for
colour.
that,
No, there's no blinds on those. What I might do is just sort of turn it around. What this is, it's a static electricity generator. Has anybody ever combed their hair in the winter and got sparks? Or taken off their jumper in the winter and you see a big spark? You ever seen that? Or even touched the outside of a car on a winter's day when it's very dusty, and you get a spark off your knuckle. Anybody have that? Alex's example was a trampoline. Anybody have sparks? Metal bolt? Another example? What, please?
You're touching the ground. There's another example. I think it's when you go in the elevator and then you go like when you're trying to get up to a different level of the shops. There's this thing, an escalator.
Escalator.
An escalator, and you touch like the side of it, and you get a spark.
Oh yeah, if you took under it.
Under that, yeah, because it's like under
I talking about the brush underneath.
Yeah, sure.
and if you go under it.
Static electricity is at very, very high voltages. When you take your jumper off, you get this huge spark. That spark is actually tens of thousands of volts. This machine here, we've estimated, generates about 140,000 volts. How many volts do you get out of a little battery? Like
12.
these batteries here, how many volts do you think you get out of one of those?
6.
They're 1.5 volts.
So how can they get?
They're 1.5 volts, and this is about 100,000 times as high voltage. Right, so it's a huge voltage. But the difference with this, it has a very, very low current. In other words, the pressure of electricity is very high, but the quantity of electricity is very, very low. It's high pressure, very, very low quantity. You see?
What are volts? Because the only time I've heard of volts is on Jurassic Park. Because 10,000 volts because the clone dinosaurs were
Yeah.
It's just how much pressure it's got.
Like the power out of here is 240 volts, which is a high voltage, but it's also a very high current. And it's alternating, so the electricity out of here is very, very dangerous. This is super dangerous. The electricity out of here is low voltage, low current, not dangerous. Electricity out of here, very high voltage, but a low current. So it'll give you a good surprise, but it's not dangerous.
Is it like wobbling of the balloon on your hair? It's like
Yeah, if you rub something in your hair, you can get a spray. Anyway, but now we'll show you what this machine does.
If I say back to you, that's the way.
If you want to.
Oh, I can't hear.
You see the spark?
You're better off standing on this side of the screen.
I'm in the best position.
So this side.
Oh, that's that seems to be the next one. That's the other one.
Now, for the grand finale, if I can find my rubber glove.
Oh, you're
You're gonna touch it on
Did you see the rubber?
It's in a box, huh?
I might have one in here.
It's just to be sure.
Yeah, in a box.
Now, it's a little bit light here. I'm not too sure if I'm going to be able to see it. This is just
It's not going to light up, like a Christmas tree.
well, it's Christmas after all.
Oh, it is, that's true. Leo, come back, please. Do you know this way?
Okay.
The birds stand up
I
there.
think we agreed that
You just went right in front of me.
No, I'm going to keep it in.
Just went right in front of me.
And it's much better. This is much better at night. But we'll see if we can see it now. Can you see it glowing?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So I'm like a human candle.
Wow.
See it lighting up?
It's
if you look really close, you can actually see it. Not that close.
Now come back, children, because you're blocking other people's.
You see the light lighting up?
It's gonna break it. It's gonna wobble with this guy.
At night, you can actually see it glowing really
Oh, see
well.
that there.
Did you get a stick? No, I just did it. It just
Did
slipped
you
in my
get
hand.
it? Did you get a shock?
No, it just slipped in my hand.
Oh,
That's interesting.
Just to finish off, let's just make sure there's no charge left. Because we don't want any surprises while we're putting it away. Just to explain, these two things here are called Leyden jars, and they actually store the electricity, they actually store the static charge. So they store it up here, and once it reaches a big enough voltage, it jumps across the gap here. And every centimetre is about 30,000 volts, and we've got it jumping about 4 centimetres. So that's about 120,000 volts. 40,000 volts? Yeah, it's about 120,000 volts.
you live a dangerous life, Mrs. Birds. Sit down, please. Sit back down.
Okay, so we'll neutralise them.
We might have some questions now. Come and sit down.
Any questions about this?
Sydney, you'll need to come back. On top of Alexander.
So we've got 5 minutes left for questions, more demonstrations if you want to play with the polarisers. Try crossing them yourself to see how it works. Try some more birefringent materials.
I've got one.
Any questions? Or state or maths? Byron.
Nice big voice, Byron.
Gladys?
Do you know how fast electricity can go?
Fast it can go.
Far.
How far? Well, it depends on the voltage. The bigger the voltage, you can get sparks jumping there.
Will you send it to us?
And
I get Tony to
that
put it
spark
on
is
some
jumping
media to send
in a
you.
tube like
Big.
that,
Yeah.
very, very low pressure.
No worries.
With traces of some inert gas, it can go meters, many meters.
Right? Okay, I'll come back to you later. Sydney.
Is there any chance of you getting the ball back if you threw it through the wall?
Is there any chance of that?
Getting the ball through the wall.
Oh, did it was like quantum effect. Well, they haven't actually done it like that much. They've only done it with like teeny
It's only with teeny particles.
Yeah.
Normally, it's very. This is the only quantum effect I've ever heard of that you can see in a classroom. because quantum effects are normally at very, very low temperatures. Like the liquid helium that Alex talked about, and there's some videos that we've watched on YouTube, haven't we? Of seeing a liquid actually run straight through the glass. So you have a cup of a liquid, and it runs straight through the glass. Because it's a superfluid, it'll actually run straight through the solid material. But those sort of things only happen at very, very low temperatures, or with very, very small particles. And I talked about teleportation. Teleportation so far has only been demonstrated with a very small number of photons, particles of light, and I think of electrons now too. But only with very, very small particles can normally see these funny effects. And that's why this polarised light effect is so incredible, because you can actually see it. You can actually see the quantum effect happening in the classroom.
Okay. Sam.
Back to you.
Okay.
He's got his question back. He's remembered.
Dick.
He's forgotten.
Alexander.
When you do it on the light and you change the glasses, why does it make a different type of colour?
Do you mean the birefringence?
Yes, on the screen.
It just, well, actually, I think it's the amount of stress applied.
But why is there the different colours?
I think it's because of the different stress.
You do get that with different amounts of stress, but what are the different colours called? We talked about this here. It's an interference pattern.
Oh.
Remember that? It's an interference pattern.
Yeah.
So different parts of the plastic are bending the light by different amounts, and they interfere. With some materials like calcite, it has a very, very clear distinction, and you'll actually get a double image. If you look through a calcite crystal at, say, my hand, you'll see two copies of the hand, because two planes of polarisation refract the light by completely different amounts. This plastic, there's just slight changes in the amount of bending at different degrees of polarisation, and so we get the interference pattern, all those beautiful colours.
Levi.
How often are there high voltages?
All the time.
In a doorbell? Because I got my doorbell fixed, and then he fixed it, says it has a very low voltage.
It's normally about 12 volts in a doorbell, very low voltage. They can't hurt you.
Mason. When that thing's been so far on, how does it make a spark? Do you mean the Whimshurst?
It's actually using a similar principle to what happens in thunderclouds.
Oh, okay.
It's actually, each of those plates is inducing a charge on, it actually gets quite complicated, but each plate induces a charge on the other plate, and then that induces a charge backwards. But
I think the first bit was the best bit about the thunderclouds.
just right, thunderclouds. Same sort of processes that happen in thunderclouds.
Sam.
This isn't the question I meant to ask, but it's when you're talking of light, how fast is light? Because
Do you remember?
my guess is 300,000 kilometers per second. That's my guess.
Does that sound right to you? That's it, that's right.
It's pretty close.
And the way you can remember this is how far away is the moon?
3 days.
No, the moon, our moon.
Oh.
It's about 300,000 kilometres away. So it takes about 1 second for light to get to the moon, and about 1 second to get back. So it travels at about 300,000 kilometres per second. That's an easy way to remember.
If you've asked a question, put your hand down now. Let somebody who hasn't had a turn. We'll have 2 more questions. And
Just one more thing on that, your interesting question. Do you know how long it takes light to get from the sun to Earth? About 8 1/3 minutes. 8 1/3 minutes. And do you know how long it takes light to get from the centre of the sun to the surface of the sun? Thousands of years.
What?
Thousands of years. Because there's so much gravity in the sun, the gravity actually slows the light down. The gravity is so strong, it stops light escaping. And of course with the black hole, no light escapes at all.
Louis, just put your hand up. We're going to have
Take a look.
Finlay. Finlay's going to be the last one, then we have to finish, and Sachin just wants to say something at the end. So, Finlay, can you have your-
With birefringence, if you put anything metal behind it, or if you put soap bubbles behind it, would those work?
No.
Is the light one?
As Alex pointed out, just on that point, as Alex pointed out with the light reflecting off the ocean, with non-metals, substances that are not metal, when light reflects off non-metals, the light being reflected is polarized.